Alright, welcome students. We're going to be talking about outlining today. So you'll need to create an outline for each one of your speeches. For your last speech, it'll be a manuscript, but for the speeches right now, you will need an outline. And this is the outline that we're going to use for the introduction speech. It will look very similar to the outlines that we use for our other speeches, except we're going to add a few things on those. But I want you to be able to get the basic understanding of these outlines. We're going to refer back to Chapter 2 and look at some of the steps in the speech-making process to help with creating the outline. And then also, if you are wondering, chapters 11 through 13 are all about organization and outlining, which we will go over separately. So let's begin. So if we look over here, the first step is going to be the analyzing the audience. So we're going to assume that we've already done this. We analyze the audience, their likes, their dislikes, have a better understanding of who they are, what they're doing. So now let's select a topic. So if I was going to select a topic, maybe I select for a topic, we'll put that where the title is. I really enjoy movies and going to movies, so maybe I bring a DVD, or maybe I brought a poster of some of my favorite movies. So we're going to assume I'm going to bring a DVD of my favorite movie. So my title is going to be Movies Make Me. So I'm going to talk about movies. My object, since you'll need an object for the speech, I'm going to act like I brought in a DVD. So the next step is determine the speech purpose. My purpose is going to have you guys get to know me a little bit better. So with that in mind, let's think of a thesis statement that's going to fit this idea of movies kind of making who I am. So maybe the thesis statement is going to be movies represent who I am as a person. So this is kind of a simple thesis statement, but remember the thesis statement is going to be the overarching theme that covers basically everything we talk about in this speech. You can get a little more creative with your thesis statement if you want it a little bit more philosophical, or taking more of an analogy perspective. Something like, just like movies, I come in many different genres. And maybe that's the one we're going to go with. So either you can keep something simple like this, or you can get a little creative. Just like movies, I come in many genres. So that's the first step. If we look over here next, step 5 is going to be developing our main points. So let's go down to the main point 1 and 2. For this speech, you can have 2 to 3 main points. I would focus on just 2 to 3 main points. If you're going to do more than that, it might be difficult to stay within that time frame. So main point 1, let's think. So thinking of our thesis statement, just like movies, I come in many genres. So maybe I talk about one genre being comedy. I really enjoy that. Just like movies, I enjoy being humorous, or I have a funny side. Funny genre. So then let's think of my next main point. We can think, so what's another theme? Action movies. I like excitement in my life. So let's change up this main point 1, and you could definitely do this. So when you're working on your outline, and maybe you come up with a strong way to start a main point, you want to change the other one to have that same format, you definitely can do that. So just keep that in mind. This is called parallel structure. So if we look, my thesis statement, my main point 1, my main point 2 have that parallel structure of just like action movies, just like this. That's okay. Repetition actually is a good thing in speech to a certain extent. So just like comedy movies, I enjoy humor in my life. So now that we've come up with our main points, we need to gather supporting material. So before we get into like the evidence and the examples we're going to use, let's come up with some subpoints for this. So thinking of just like comedy movies, I enjoy humor in my life. I
love to joke around and laugh with my friends. I love to watch funny movies with my wife. So maybe those are my 2 subpoints for kind of the idea of humor. So I love to joke around and laugh with my friends. And then secondly, I love to watch funny movies with my wife. And then let's move down and make some subpoints for my main point 2, which is just like action movies, I like excitement in my life. So I enjoy experiencing new and exciting cultures. And then maybe my next one is I enjoy outdoor activities in all seasons of the year. Alright, so those are my subpoints. Now we got to come up with supporting material. This supporting material is going to be what you add on to the subpoint. This doesn't necessarily have to be written on your outline, though. You can, if you want, create another indentation where maybe you put support, and then maybe we're going to put something like a story about a time with friends. And then next we would maybe put for support story about movies with wife. So as you can see, with the supporting material, you'll not only have a subpoint or 2 subpoints for each main point, you're going to have to support that subpoint. So just to give you a quick example, say I'm giving this speech and I say, just like comedy movies, I enjoy humor in my life. First off, I love to joke around and laugh with my friends. This dates back to when I first started making friends, even in kindergarten and grade school. So I can remember back to when I was even 7, 8 years old, and me and my friends used to pull pranks on each other in class, and that's really how we grew our friendship. Even today, we still joke around and poke fun at each other for the little things that we do in life, and it seems like all of our friends really have a great sense of humor when it comes to that. That last part that I just said was going to be all that supporting the fact that I love to joke around and laugh with my friends. So I'm going to leave that there, and I'll just include them here as well in case anyone wants to add. Like I said, the support you have to say, but you don't necessarily need it on your outline. Example from my life when I visited Mexico. And support here, it's maybe going to look like I'm going to talk about my hunting and fishing trips. So let's see, just to give you an example here quick. So say I already talked about my experiencing in new cultures. Then I go, additionally, I enjoy outdoor activities in all seasons of the year. And this is where you add the support. Every year I make sure in the fall to make it up to deer hunting camp where I get to hang out with my family and friends, and I love just sitting in the stand watching the sunrise and hunting deer. Fishing trips, I love to fish not only in the summer when it's nice out, but being from Minnesota, I also love ice fishing. So every winter I make sure to at least get out on the ice and do a little bit of ice fishing. Now that I have a brother-in-law, me and him make sure to get out every year, and it's a really good bonding time between the two of us. So that's just a little talk right there, is that support. So now you can make the overview. The overview is basically just going to be a summary of your 2 main points. So my life is a lot like comedy and action movies rolled into one.
Or you can even be creative and say my life is a lot like a Kevin Hart movie. It has comedy and action all rolled into one. Alright, so then restating the overview. For this assignment, I'm okay with you just copying and pasting it over. I do challenge you, though, to be able to come up with a little bit of a different overview in terms of wording, just so it's not the exact same, but it's okay for this speech to do that. So we'll just do the same thing with the thesis statement. And then now we have just our transitions left, and then getting into our attention getter, and then lastly our memorable close. So maybe here I'm going to take a quick poll of what type of movie genres are class favorites. And then for maybe my memorable close, I'm thinking about doing something talking about like the end credits. You can also have that as a transition, but through the twists, through the plot twists and turns, my life, I appreciate. Let's see, through the problems of my life. Trying to come up with a creative one for you guys here. So through the plot twists of life, I urge you to step out of your comfort zones and explore another genre that you can make your own. So with a memorable close, you could end with maybe a rhetorical question for them to think about. You can kind of tie the whole speech together. I'm offering some advice. You can definitely do that as well. So with the transitions, we can look at getting a little bit creative with this first speech. You can have a little cheesy, a little fun here. So let's move past the previews and into the first scene. Then maybe for this transition, now it's time for a popcorn break and shift in genres. As the closing credits, so maybe as the closing credits loom, let's end this production. Alright, so there you guys have it. Here is a sample outline for this class that I created for you guys. What you can do is I'll post this, and then I'll also post for you guys a blank outline with just the bold points, and then you can put in your own stuff. But definitely use this as an example. This is kind of what I'm looking for. Like I said, this is support stuff you don't need to have. You need a subpoint, but if you just want to say the support stuff in your speech rather than writing it out, that is totally okay with me. Alright, so thank you, and we'll talk to you guys soon.